Hello everyone, I am Rajat. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our course. Let's take a moment to look at the image in the screen. It's just a piece of futuristic technology. It's a snapshot from the present and a very real glimpse into the immediate future. Drone or unmanned vehicle are rapidly moving from the realm of science, friction, and into the very fabric of our daily lives. It becomes the eyes in the sky for the first responder, the courier of our future packages, surveys of infrastructure, and the artist behind the breathtaking cinematic stuff. The revolution is already here, and the understanding the technology that powers is more critical than ever before. It is precise why we are here today. On behalf of Skywords Innovation, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our advanced training module, an introduction of drone technology and the basics aerodynamics. Over the next hour, our goal is to demystify the incredible mission. We will embark on a journey that starts with the very basics and builds a solid foundation of knowledge for anyone interested in this field, where we are an aspirant commercial pilot, an engineer, a professional, or a simple enthusiastic. We'll break down what drone is, explore into the essential components, then dwell into the fundamental principles of dynamics. The science that explain how these devices gracefully and powerfully defies gravity. Think of this session as your lunch pack into the world of unmanned aviation. I remember not too long ago, an idea of personal camera equipped aircraft was something you are seeing in Spycam movie. The technology was largely confined to complex military application, but now look at where we are. The pace of innovation has been simply staggering. Today, a farmer in a remote area can use drone to modify crops held hundreds of acres in a single afternoon, a task that would have previously taken days. A search and rescue team can deploy thermal camera equipped with drone to find a missing person in the denser terrain. Dramatically increases the chance of successful outcome. A construction manager can use drone to create detailed 3D model of a job site, improving safety and efficiency. They aren't just hypotheses, they are real world application happening every day in a single day. The fundamental changes how the industry operates. This transformation underscores why a core understanding of drone technology is not just a valuable skill but an underway to immense opportunity. So we begin. I encourage you to think upon the technology itself and consider the possibility it's unlocked. We are at the pivotal moment, and the knowledge for you gained here will empower you to take part in an exciting revolution. To build this foundation, we start with sharing the language and clear definition. So let's move forward and answer all the fundamental questions of you all. What exactly is drone? In our next slide, we'll define the term and begin exploring the various categories that amazes aircraft into.
Alright, let's move into slide number 2. So in our introduction, I left you with fundamental question. What exactly is drone? We see them everywhere, we hear them constantly, but let's establish a clear, precise definition that it serves as foundation for everything else we'll discuss today. As we see on the slide, at its core, a drone is simply an unmanned aerial vehicle or a UAV. The critical part of the definition is unmanned. It is an aircraft that flies without human pilot physically on board. It is a single character that separates drone from all other forms of avionics. Now, it doesn't mean that there is no pilot. The pilot is simply in different position, safely on ground. The term drone is popularly common name we use, but in professional regulatory and technical circle, we would mostly hear them as UAV. Think of it like a difference between calling a car an automobile, both correct, but one is formal. The key point on this slide explains how these unmanned alien vehicles are controlled, and this breaks down into two fascinating methods. The first and the most familiar is remote control. This is where the trained pilot or navigator on the ground use a control station that familiarly look, looking device looking device with joystick, button, and a screen to send real-time information to the aircraft via a radio signal. Every climb, turn, and descent is direct input from the human operator. It requires skill, focus, and deep understanding of aircraft behavior. The second method, however, is where the technology true comes revolutionary. Autonomous control. In this mode, the drone operator uses sophisticated onboard computer. It follows a pre-programmed flight path using data from GPS, inertial measurement units, and a host of all sensors. The operator might define a mission such as survey of. Before we talk about how these amazing missions fly or what they do, we need to be on the same page about what we call them. You hear a lot of different terms around here and there, sometimes in interchangeable form. But in the technical, professional, and the legal world, these words have a very specific meaning. Understanding this terminology isn't just about sounding the knowledgeability, it's crucial for understanding regulation, operating safety, and communication clearly with others in the field. This slide breaks down the common important terms you encounter. Let's start with the most familiar one, drone. This is the most commonly used term in day-to-day conversation. It has rather interesting origin coming from the loud, constant buzzing sound early military target aircraft which reminds people of drone of a male bee. Today, its technical definition is aerial vehicle that operates without human pilot on board and it's capable of autonomous flight. It means it can fly a pre-programmed path or use an onboard intelligence to navigate without direction, movement control from the person. Next up, we have UAV, which stands for Unmanned Aerial Vehicle. This is a step in technological precision of the word drone. While drone can refer to anything from a toy sophisticated military aircraft UAV specification refers to aircraft itself, the physical machine that flies. It is a core component, the vehicle. It is unmanned. It is equipped with technology like sensors, GPS that allows it to operate automatically and autonomously, gathering information and navigating its environment. So, when you are talking specifically about flying hardwares, UAV is most accurate term. Now, it is where a really important discussion comes in. A UAV is just a vehicle, but it does not operate in vacuum. That brings us UAS, Unmanned Aerial System, a word that here is a system. UAS includes an unmanned aerial vehicle, but it also encompasses everything else which makes it work. This means the ground control station, where the operator is the data terminal, the sophisticated sensor or the camera it carries, known as the payload, and the crucial electronic data link that allows the aircraft and the ground station to communicate with each other. Think of it as UAV in airplane, but a UAS is a plane plus the pilot on ground, the control tower, and the entire communication network. It completes the operating package. Building on that, you will often hear about the term RPA and RPAS, which stands for Remote Pilot Operated Remote Pilot Aircraft and Remote Pilot Aircraft System. These are official terms you will find in many legal and professional documents, especially with avionics authority like FAA. The importance of remote pilot, the terminology was chosen deliberately to highlight here is the human operator, a certified pilot, and in a commander in pilot. Even if there is mile away, the RPA is the aircraft itself, and the RPAS is the entire system, just like UAV and UAS. The choice used to remotely pilot and underscore the responsibility and active role on the human pilot in ensuring safety and control flight. Finally, we have SUAS, which stand for Small Unmanned Aerial System. This term primarily a regulatory one. The Avionics Authority need to weigh to classify drone on size and risk. So they have created a small UAS category in the United States. For example, an SUAV defined as a system weight less than 55 pounds or about 25 kilograms. The weight-based classification is incredibly important because different sets of rule applies to small system whereas large one. If you are flying for fun or for most commercial operator, you almost certainly operate an SUAV and you need to follow the specific regulatory for the character. So, while the term might sound it covers all purposes, its most critical function is defined to be specific weight class for legal and operating purpose. Now that we have the solid grasp of the terminology, let's move on to the understanding what a drone system specifically, a small unmanned aerial aircraft system or SUAS, it is truly made of. When you see a drone flying, it is easy to think of it as just one thing, a single gadget. But in reality, it's a collection of sophisticated technology all working in harmony. As the slide says, it is a comprehensive system. This is a critical concept. It is not just the aircraft, it is the entire infrastructure from the hardware in the air to software on the ground that makes the flight possible. We are going to break down the key component that makes up a modern SUAS and you will see how they fit together to create these incredible missions. First, let's start off with the most visible part, the UAV airframe. This is a physical skeleton of the body of the drone. Think of it as the fuselage or and the wing of the plane. Its primary job is to house all the dedicated components we are about to discuss and the crucial provide aerodynamic structure during the flight. The aircraft comes in shape and size. You have popularly multi-rotor design like the quadcopter, which are excellent and which can maneuver in tight space. When you have fixed wing design, which looks more like a traditional airplane and are much more efficient for covering longer distance. The material of the airframe is key important for lightweight yet stronger material like carbon fiber or specialized plastic to minimize the flight timing, so maximize the flight timing and the durability. Of course, the airframe won't have any with the airframe won't go without any energy, which brings us the power system. This is the heart of the drone, pumping life into each component. For most SUAS, which means higher energy density polymer or lipo battery, the power system is constantly balancing the act for the engineer. You need power to lift the drone and its sensor, runs the autopilot and maintain communication. But the battery itself adds weight. The more weight requires more power to lift, which requires bigger battery, and so on. And this is why the flight time is one of the most important limitation of modern drone. Managing the power efficiently is one of the most important skill for a drone operator. The next is the bigger brain of the operation, the autopilot system. This is arguably the most complex and the magical part of the SUAS. The autopilot is a combination of flight controller, a small onboard computer, and a suite of sensors, which is like inertial measurement unit or IMU, which includes accelerometer and gyroscope, a barometer for altitude, and a GPS for location. It takes all the data and makes thousands of calculations per second to keep the aircraft stable in air. When you tell the drone to fly forward, you aren't directly controlling the motor. You are telling the autopilot your intent, and it figures out the precision adjustment need to make the motor to execute the command smoother and safety. It enables features like position holding, altitude holding, and fully autonomous pre-programmed mission. Let's tell the autopilot what to do, and you need to have a communication system. This is an invisible link that connects the pilot on the ground to the aircraft in the sky. It's a two-way street. You send input to the drone, and the drone sends a vital information or vital telemetric information data like battery life, speed, and altitude, and often a live video feedback down to you. These system operates a radio frequency and maintain a strong, clear link, paramounting the safety operation. Losing this link can cause a flyaway, which in every drone pilot's nightmare. What the drone is actually doing there is usually about collecting data, and for that, it uses sensor array. This is the payload, the whole reason for the flight. The most common sensor in which the high resolution visual camera for photography and videography is possible. The drone can carry thermal camera to see heat signature, which is invaluable for search and rescue and inspecting solar panel. This can carry multispectral sensor for precision agriculture to analyze the crop health, or it might have a LiDAR which uses laser to create incredible detailed 3D maps of the terrain. The types of sensor defines the drone mission. Finally, all this is managed by the ground control station or GCS. This isn't just a remote control anymore. A modern GCS is sophisticated piece of hardware and software. It can be a dedicated control with a built-in screen, or it could be a tablet or a laptop running specialized software. From the GCS, the pilot plans the mission, monitors the drone health, and locates the real-time and controls the sensor. It takes manual control when needed. As we see in the image, the station have huge amount of information, drives the pilot a complete situation awareness. As did you know that fact that all it is true integration of multiple field aircraft from the aerodynamics electronics for hardware communication are tied together. Every single one of the component is vital. A failure in any one of them can mean a failure of the entire mission. On the surface, it might seem like a modern drone is just a fancier version of remotely controlled airplanes and helicopters that people have been flying for decades. It is a common point of confusion, but a critical one to clear up. The difference between them is not just cosmetic, it is the fundamental technological leap that separates a simple flying object from an intelligent autonomous tool. The slide puts it in a perfect way. The critical distinction lies in the GPS capability and the autonomous functionality. This is driving the line between the device that merges remotely and controls one is the truly drone. Understanding the difference is the key to appreciate what makes these systems so powerful and versatile. Let's first consider the traditional remote control or the RC aircraft. If you have ever seen someone flying one of the RC plane in the park, you would have witnessed an impressive display of skill. The operator is directly controlling the aircraft. Every movement, every turn, every climb, every tips is directly a result of command that inputs through the stick on their remote. This is completely manual operation. The aircraft itself has no intelligence. It has no idea where and how fast it has to go, or even flying level. The slide points out typically no integration of GPS system. If a pilot where let's if the pilot where you let the control for even a second, the aircraft be would crash due to wind or it might be due to gravity. It relies entirely on the skill of the human operator to maintain stability, navigation, and landing safety. It's purely a test of hand-eye coordination and constant focus. Now, let's contrast that with modern drones. First, the most important piece of puzzle is integrated GPS capability from the moment on its powering of the drone, communication with the network of satellites to pinpoint its exact location of the globe. The single feature charts everything. It is the foundation of all drone intelligence. Its location awareness feeds directly into the second key component, the autopilot. The autopilot is the onboard brain that uses GPS data along with its sensors like gyroscope and accelerometer to understand its state and environment. This is what enables the magic of self-stabilization. If you are flying a modern drone and you are confused or need to think about the moment, you simply let go the control. Unlike the RC airplane that would fall off from the sky, the drone will stop, brake, and hover perfectly in the place. The autopilot system makes the thousands of micro adjustments to the motor every second to counteract wind and holding its precision GPS position. This makes flying dramatically more accessible and safety. This provides a rock-steady stability need to capture smooth videos for accurate sensor data. This combination of GPS and autopilot completes the transform the nature of the operation. You no longer just a remote pilot, you are a system operator. As the slide goes, we have the options to see the flying maneuverability just like an RC airplane, but you unlock the power of autonomous flight. You sit down with a map, draw a flight path with your finger, set altitude and the camera action at the different waypoint, and sends the mission to the drone. The drone will take off, execute the entire complete plan on its own, and land on its own when it is finished. With all, you simple monitor the progress and the pathway. This critical difference the RC aircraft cannot do. A drone operates its ability to perform its task autonomously with a precision that elevates a drone from a hobbyist toy to a powerful tool for industrial ranging from a cinematographer to agriculturist to an emergency service.
Now that we have established the key difference between a simple aircraft and an intelligent robot, let's take a step back in time. It is easy to think of a drone as a very recent 21st century technology, but its conceptual origins go back much further than people realize. The journey to the sophisticated system we have today is longer and a fascinating one, fulfilling the integrity and the ambition the slide walks into through some of the earliest and the most pivotal moments in the history of unmanned aerial flight. Starting from the midway 19th century, you see the dream of sending aircraft on mission without a pilot is a old one. Our story begins all way back in 1949, long before the Wright brothers even made their first flight. The first recorded military use an unmanned aerial vehicle happened when Austria was laying siege to the city of Venice, frustrating that they could get their cannons enough close enough to the city. The Austrian force came up with a radical idea. They equipped unmanned hot air balloon with bomb and attached them to a time fuse. The plan was to calculate the wind direction and launch these bombs with balloon so that they could drift over the city wall and release their payload. The execution was a bit clumsy, and an unexpected change in the wind blew some of their balloon back to the Austrian line. But the historical significance is immense. For the first time, the army had deployed an unmanned aerial system in an attempt to attack an enemy. The seed of the idea was planted. Fast forward to the era of World War One, unmanned flight was now a reality, and the technology was advancing rapidly. The Times saw the first true pilotless aircraft in the year 1917. The Great Britain developed a pilotless flight based on the work of Nikola Tesla. Conducting a successful test flight, it was designated to be an aerial target. A drone used and trained an anti-aircraft gunner, which was major motivation for the early drone development. Just a year later, 1918, the United Kingdom got involved with one of its own projects called as Gettysburg, which was reusable flight. It was essentially a early cruise missile. It was small, biplanar, but machine made of paper and wood that could launch from dollies. Its simple engine was designated to run for a pre-calculated amount of time, enough to carry its explosive payload over enemy line. Once the engine cut out, the wings would detach and the bug would plumb into the ground, detonating its impact. It was never used in combat during the war, but in representation, a huge leap forward in the concept of unmanned aerial warfare. The period during World War, particularly the 1930s, was a hotbed of invention that laid the groundwork for modern remote control. The single biggest breakthrough of the decade was the invention of first aircraft with reusable radio control devices. This was a game changer. Unlike Gettysburg, this one was one-way trip and you could theoretically control the aircraft in real time using radio signal. This invention is directly ancestral for every remote control vehicle we use today. This new technology quickly moved from the labs to the hands of the innovator and the public eye. In 1935, the British actor and the model airplane enthusiast named Reginald Denny developed one of the first successful radio-controlled modern airplane. This venture would later come to the Radioplane Company, which went on to the production of thousands of target drones for US military during the World War II. Then, in 1937, Ross Hull and Clinton D. Stowe went the first published for the demonstration of radio-controlled aircraft in Hartford. The Imagine seeing that in 1937, a aircraft flying through the sky with no pilot and no visible connection on ground. It must be a pure magic. This event brought the concept of remote control out of the shadow and into the public consciousness. As we look at these early milestones, from balloons to flying bombs to the RC plane, we can see that we aren't just quicker innovator. There were critical first step establishing every foundation of the unmanned aerial flight, and they led directly into the incredible drone technology what we see today.
Following the foundational development before and during the Second World War, the second half of the 20th century is where the drone technology truly began to mature. This period in 1950 to 2010 marks the evolution of simple radio controlled target into the sophisticated intelligent system that are being used today. This the journey was driven by a series of distinct yet interconnected technology and a social shift. We'll explore four phases. The initial military focus during the World War, the revolution begins, impacting the microchip, the first step into civilian use, and finally, the game changer arrives of widespread GPS. The story of this era begins in 1950 with the drone development, mostly executive in the hands of military and defense department. In the tense atmosphere of the Cold War, the need for advanced military technology skyrocketed. Drones were initially perfected for roles like air defense targeting. The jet-powered high-speed targets drones like the famous Ryan Fire B series become essential for training fighter pilot and anti-aircraft missile crews, providing a realistic threat to the practical practical against without risking the human life. Soon, their role expanded dramatically into intelligent gathering. The infamous U-2 incident, where piloted spy aircraft was shot down by a Soviet Union, highlighting the immense manner risk of reconnaissance drone. This pushed the development of surveillance drone that could fly over the hostile territory to collect photographic intelligence directly uh, to the intelligence survey unit and with the help of the reconnaissance drone. It was during the period the concept of weaponizing drone began to take shape, moving them from passive observer to active participant in the conflict. The next leap forward wasn't aerodynamics, but in electronics. The emergence of microchip in the later 1960 and 1970 was turning point of all technology, and especially for drone. Before the microchip, the electronic system requires to guide and control were bulkier, heavier, and consumes lot power. The invention of integrated circuit meant the incredible complex control logic could now pack into a tiny, lightweight package. This was the birth of modern flight controller. For the first time, we could put a powerful computer inside an aircraft itself. This was absolutely critical for enabling autonomous flight. Onboard brain could process sensor data and could calculation to make calculation in real time, allowing for most advanced stability and navigating was ever possible with direct control alone. The microchip gave the drone a mind of its own. As the technology matures and becomes slightly more accessible, in 1980 saw the first tentative step of drone moving beyond the military. This expectation was slow at the first, as the system were still incredibly expensive and complex. But newer applications began to emerge. The scientific community started to see the potential using drone for things like atmospheric research, monitoring volcanic activity, and trafficking wildlife population in remote and inaccessible area. We also saw the very beginning of commercial application, visionarily starting experiment with drone for aerial photography in industries like filmmaking and real estate. As the potential of the technology become clear, it begins appearing in education settings, with university using drone platform to train their new generation of aerospace engineers. The first piece of the puzzle, and arguably the most important for the drone we know today, fell, in, fell into place in the 2000 year. the widespread available in the Global Positioning System or the GPS. While the GPS had extensive for a decade, it was during the time that the receiver became small enough, cheaper enough, and accurate enough to integrate into smaller aircraft. This was the ultimate technology breakthrough for autonomous system. GPS became GPS gave a drone itself its own sense of place and motion, allowing it to know its precision globally, and it can determine its velocity and a time in real time. This is what unlocking the feature that defines the modern drone. The ability to hover perfectly in one spot to fly complex pre-programmed route with pinpoint accuracy and all the important return to home safety feature. The GPS took the immense burden of the navigation of the human pilot and handed it over to mission, making the drone not only easier and safer to flight, but but infinitely more capable of reasonable and automated tools. Period leading to 2010 was about building the foundation technology of drone. Then the period from 2010 to today is undeniably their golden age. In this era, where those separate threads of innovation, military development, microchipping, GPS finally came together and exploded into public consciousness, the rapid advancement and widespread adaptation we have seen in the last decade and the half has been nothing short of breathtaking. The drone have gone a niche expensive tool from mainstream consumer product and an indestructible industrial tool. This explosion of drone technology wasn't an coincidence. It was driven by the convergence of three key technology while the development outside the drone industries were perfectly poisoned to fuel the growth. These are the internet, the smartphone, and the lithium polymer battery. First, let's consider the impact of internet. It might not be the physical component you find inside the drone, but its influence is absolutely essential for the prospect of person and civilian drone. Before the internet was widespread, sharing complex technology knowledge was slow and difficult. If you develop a new flight control algorithm or a clever airframe design, share it with the global community was a huge undertaking. The internet changed everything. It enables the instant sharing of knowledge and design. Suddenly, an engineer in California could collaborate on an open source autopilot project with a program in German and hobbyist in Japan. This created a fertile ground for rapid and decentralized innovation. Furthermore, the internet facilitates the rise and global drone technology community. Forums like YouTube channel and online learning platform becomes a virtual classroom where everyone from curious teenager to a secondary engineer could learn how to build, fly, and program drones. This democratization of knowledge shattered the barrier to entry and unleashed a wave of creativity that traditionally closed off to military development model could never have achieved. Next, we have the smartphone. It's hard to overstate the importance of smart mode revolution on Broad's world. The relentless push to make smartphones smaller, more powerful, and more efficient directly benefits drone development in two major ways. First, the sheer computing and the miniaturization of the smartphone components were godsend. The small, tiny, powerful processor, motion sensors like accelerometer, gyroscope, and GPS chip that allowed the smartphone to navigate and play games were perfectly suited in the way of drone flight control. The piggy banking of The massive scale of smartphone industry made the sophistication component incredibly cheap, ready available. The second smartphone itself became the integral part of the control system. Instead of needing a bulkier, dedicated ground control station, you can now run a powerful flight control app on your mobile phone in your pocket. This not only made the drone system lighter, more portable, but it also made the user interface more intuitive and familiar to an average person, contributing their overall design compactness and making the drone so far accessible to mass markets. Finally, we come to the technology that literally gets the golden age of the ground, the lithium polymer or LiPo batteries. As we discussed earlier, the power is everything to drone flight. For decades, battery technology was majorly a limiting factor. Older battery chemistries like nickel cadmium were heavy and did not match the charge required. LiPo battery was critical breakthrough. It has significant high energy density, meaning it can store more power in much lighter package. This simple development had profound impact on drone could do. The flight time, which were once measured in single digit minutes, could now extend to 20, 30, or even 40 minutes of drone consumer, even longer for commercial pilots. This extended time and range and a vast array of practical application. Filmmakers could now stay in enough to make a perfect shot. An inspector could survey an entire bridge in a single battle. The farmer could map the 100 acres of land in a single flight. Without the energy density of lithium polymer battery, the operational mission defines in the modern drone industry wouldn't have been possible. Together, these three technology collaborates the power of internet, the miniaturization power of smartphone, and the energy power of lipo battery creates the perfect storm that launching into the golden age of drones. While the underlying technology for the drone booms were in the place of 2010, it took a series of key events to transform the potential into commercial reality we see today. The technology on its own itself is enough. We need public awareness, clear legal frameworks, and market validation. This slide is highlighting the pivotal commercial milestone that took drone out of the lab and the battlefield and put them into hands of the business and consumer around the world. These events are the catalyst that ignites the industry and accelerate its path from the niche tool to an indispensable business asset. The first major spark came in 2013, and it came from the company everyone knows as Amazon. In Wired Watch television interview, the company announced its futuristic plan for the service called Amazon Prime Air. The concept was simple but audacious to small autonomous drone to deliver package to the consumer doorstep in 30 minutes or less. To the general public, this sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie, but its effect was profound. For the first time, drone technology was presented not just as a weapon or a complex industrial mission, but as a tool for everyone's convenience. This announcement single-handedly thrusted the concept of commercial drone into the global public spot. This sparked the worldwide conversation, capturing the imagination of millions and, more importantly, firing up the boardrooms of countless other companies. The question was no longer if the drone would use commercially, but how and when. Amazon made the future feels tangible. Of course, imaginably, and public mass can only take it so far. The single biggest hurdles for the commercial drone industry was legal and regulatory uncertainty. This was what the event made in 2016 more incredibly important. The Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, in the United States issued its first official commercial drone license under a new framework known as Part 107. This was the regulatory milestone the industry had been desperately waiting for. Before the Part 107, flying a drone or any business purpose was legally mug or complicated process requiring special exemption that were difficult to be obtained. The new rule created a clear standardization and accessibility path for business and individual to become certified commercial drone pilot. This was an official green. This new regulatory clarified immediate wave of innovation and adoption. This clear route to the road, the market for the consumer and the prosumer, the drone exploded in 2016. Photographers, real estate agent, construction manager, small business owner rushed to adopt the technology. The rapid spread of affordable, capable drone created a virtuous cycle. As more people used them, more applications were discovered, which in turn drove most important demand and future innovation. This wasn't a handful of large corporations anymore. It was a grassroots of commercial movement. The result of this a perfect storm of public awareness and regulatory clarity, the market adopted its quantification in the final milestone. In 2020, the commercial drone market had expanded from roughly 2 billion in 2016 to an uh, astonishing 20 billion. This is a tenfold increase in the 4 years. The number reflects the growing importance and the integration of drone across countless industries. It represents not just the sales in hardware, but an entire ecosystem of software, data analysis, and a service provide that grows around it. Together, these milestones tells a clear story. Amazon sparked the public uh, imagination. The FAA opened the legal floodgates, and the market responded with the unprecedented growth, cementing the drone's transformation from a military tool into a true commercial necessity.